5:38. We start our meeting with the pledge. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There is an adjustment to the agenda that we received yesterday, so we'll put that under F, and that's to approve the hire of the Deputy Sheriff Tanner Kutzler. Are there any other adjustments?
It's actually republished as item C.
Oh, well, you can scoot that in there then. Everybody got that? Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes. At this time, we give an opportunity for the public to come forward with any comments or concerns. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to do that? Good morning, Arvis.
Good morning.
If you sign in, please, and you know, I'll give you about 5 minutes.
I gotcha.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Well, as often happens, I'm going to speak to something which isn't in your future discussion today, so I'm ahead of the game. I have some thoughts about the sale of Superior National. I just wanted to share it with you. When you considered a sale, were you commissioners looking to sell to get rid of so you could be done with this ongoing expense? In other words, see no return on the county's investment and also no further expense to the county? Or did you think you would see a return and make some profit on the years of investments, which the current scenario doesn't seem to support? The documents in the agenda packet today include one on page 27 called Challenge 1, Cash Flow Shortfall. In it, it says, the high revenue summer months historically were used to repay lines of credit, which were used to cover winter shortfalls. That summer information is missing from your packet. Why? Wouldn't that be a consideration when looking at what is needed to cover the supposed irrigation and septic system repairs? All we are shown is February through May revenue and costs of sales, followed by a set of labor expenses for these same 4 months, and further a set of expenses that appear to be for the year. Meaning you're using projected expense that the buyer should be responsible for, as well as potential income, which is not shown. If you're going to show the projected expenses, shouldn't you show the projected income as well? A complete picture? And if I'm not understanding your charts, then are they making sense to everyone else? And will someone please explain that during the presentation? Where is the detail on irrigation and septic repairs? Who provided this information? Wasn't someone on top of these two systems before now? If this sale were not taking place, would these systems be suddenly revealed to you later this year and then be on your agenda to have to deal with in a whole different scenario? Did they just happen yesterday? On the market in March, potentially sold by September. Just because there are only 3 offers doesn't mean you must take one of those. That's a relatively short period of time for a $2 million piece of property, even with the stipulations that are on it. What happens if you pause right now? When you think about it, to find the best person for a highly responsible staff position, you exercised better judgment than to take from the first pool of applicants. You didn't find what you were looking for, So you tried again. You got better. And you got better results when you decided you should start from scratch. Is there some timetable that the EDA has that makes this the offer that we have to take? On page 29, there are limited proposed solutions to your problems. If the buyer needs to have these repairs, could he borrow the money from the county revolving loan fund at the 1% interest rate, as opposed to the county jumping through hoops to fund the $200,000 that the EDA is suggesting it needs? As you move forward with this and other decisions, it is your responsibility to review and research. I'd like to remind us all that the significance of credentials and past history were used when Lutsen Resort was sold. Enough said.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have any of the commissioners received any responses? Okay, thank you on that. So we'll go ahead with the consent agenda items. On our list today would be our claims, the minutes from our regular board meeting, January 27th, approval for promotion of Neva Maxwell to Land Services Director, approve hire of Deputy Sheriff Tanner Kutzler, appoint David Seaton to the Cook County Planning Commission, and appoint Patrick Knight to the Cook County Planning Commission. Would anyone like to pull anything? Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to pull the item relative to Neva's promotion.
Okay.
I'm not sure what that ended up being on the rearrange here. It was C on the original.
It's D.
It's D, thank you.
Okay. We could put that maybe before the administrator report? Okay.
And Madam Chair,
Anything else?
then I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I'll support.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. So we're going to move into some of our areas of consideration. One is the update on the sale of the Superior National. And welcome both of you, Patrick and Mark, to give a presentation. We'll look forward to it.
Great, thank you. I believe I'm driving the presentation, is that right? Okay, good. Good morning, Commissioners. Peter Clissold, I'm the Board Chair on the EDA. Joining me is Mark Shackleton, EDA Treasurer. Good morning, Commissioners, Kristen and Brady. So thanks for making time for us. I'll jump right in. This is, as I say, an update on the EDA sale. 5 areas to cover. We'll just do a quick review of actions to date, an overview of our buyer, a couple of challenges, significant ones that are currently facing the sale, a proposed solution to those challenges, and next steps. So a high-level overview of the actions to date. We placed Superior National on the market back in March of 2025. Why? Many reasons. Retire the county bond, convert this public asset into one that is private, and with that, treat it as a taxable piece of property that currently is not collecting any taxes. This gets the EDA, and to a larger degree, Cook County, out of the golf course business, which we're not fully equipped to tackle, and puts this course in the hands of a professional, someone who's got experience and is well capitalized in managing golf courses and has proven such. So we did receive 3 offers. We negotiated a deal and entered into a letter of intent with Brady Hatcher. That was back in September of 2025, which kicked off a due diligence period. What was discovered during this period were significant deferred maintenance issues, one being the irrigation, which we had an inkling of early in the summer that was not properly functioning, but through Bar Engineering had a better understanding of just the impact of that. And more recently, the septic system. So both septic and irrigation. We'll touch on those in a few minutes and how they impact the sale. But deal negotiated, Brady Hatcher, and what I'd like to do is spend just a couple of minutes talking about the buyer and the operator, because as I mentioned, one of the key drivers for the sale of the golf course is to get it into the hands of someone well capitalized and importantly experienced, so that this important asset to Cook County, irrespective of the ownership structure, can continue to serve both the county and its visitors. So Brady Hatcher, 25 years in medical device development and manufacturing. He purchased Golden Eagle Golf Course just outside of Brainerd in 2023. They put a lot of money into this golf course. Some of our team has gone down and met with Brady and importantly seen the golf course to get a feel for its upkeep and the capital improvements that have been made. They've now had it for a little over 2 years, and it is quite impressive. And his plans for Superior National mirror what he's done, what we can see that he's done with Golden Eagle. As is the case with Golden Eagle, he intends to use SVN Northco as the operator. They've been in business for over 50 years, Minneapolis-based. They've been managing Golden Eagle since 2017, in fact, so that's 3 or 4 years before Brady even became involved in it. They've significantly increased the profitability and the business model at Golden Eagle. A few photographs at the bottom here. It's a very impressive place. It's open to the public. It's known for its excellent staff, course conditions, and frankly, it's actually recognized as one of the best golf courses in the state and absolutely in the Brainerd area. But as I say, we've got a couple of challenges as it relates to the successful completion of this deal. And the first is cash flow. So historically, expenses exceed revenues during these winter months, as I think it does for many businesses here on the North Shore. Superior National has a history of taking a line of credit to help offset that dry period in the winter, which then gets paid off during the high revenue summer months. We've confirmed with Redpath that process really isn't available to us going forward. That is to say that our auditor has told us for operational purposes, such bridge loans are just not any longer on the table. So our 2026 cash position and the expense projection between now and our expected closing, which would be the end of May, which is why we've bracketed those particular months, sees us with a shortfall of cash of about $163,000 between now and the end of May. Further details can be found in the appendix. The other challenge is as it relates to the sale itself. And as I mentioned, the irrigation, certainly the magnitude of it, if not the understanding, and the septic entirely were not fully known when we entered into our negotiated deal with Brady. But this sale pro forma provides a top-to-bottom view of the sale price, plus the inventories that we expect to see at closing, offset with the bond retirement quoted from Brady, agent fees, other selling expenses. But as you can see, the irrigation and septic, this is at 150% of current estimates, estimates that have come in from Barr Engineering for the irrigation. His name escapes me, but the septic, thank you, Isaac Hansen. So that's $500,000 that frankly we didn't have visibility to when we entered into this deal. Puts us upside down at closing to the tune of about $90,000. So taking together a negative cash flow and a $90,000 deficit, as you can appreciate, presents some challenges. We could handle with one or the other, but both coming together make it very difficult. But we do have a proposed solution, and yes, it includes an ask of the county, an ask in the amount of $200,000 to bridge temporarily this financial gap. This will enable us to maintain our planned activities for 2026 within the EDA and successfully close on that sale by the end of May. But this ask isn't an endless one. We want to leverage an existing $200,000 loan that the EDA has made to Gunflint View, so we consider that essentially an asset. That loan is to be repaid back to the EDA between September of 2026 and September of 2027, which, of course, at that point, in turn, we would hand that back over to the county as a response to this bridge. And then just as a reminder, per Redpath, lines of credit, as we've been able to use in the past, are no longer available to us. Taking us then to the next steps before we take your questions. So finalize this financial bridge with Cook County, execute the purchase agreement, because right now we're just working under that letter of understanding. That'll get us into a period of public notice and meeting that the EDA will hold with the public for the sale. That then enters into our 90-day right of first refusal period with the Nelson family, who retain the right of first refusal on the golf course, taking us then to closing, as I say, by the end of May. And the irrigation and septic would be completed after the closing when the weather improves enough, so that money would be put into escrow. So, thank you for the time, and questions or comments?
Thank you. So I'll open it up for discussion. Questions or comments? Commissioner White?
Okay, so when the purchase agreement was created and there was going to be discovery, was there any language that would have somehow reduced for the county, for the taxpayers, reduce the amount of liability for the septic and for the septic and the irrigation? Was there any guesstimate in the counties, in the real estate person who sold this, any estimates in their head as to what those two costs might be? I mean, if it's 1.85 million, and to settle the bond, it's 1.35, but we have to throw in another 0.5. Is there any room for renegotiating, or was there any discussion about what happens if this is if this is what is found?
Good question. The negotiation centered around us selling to the buyer a fully functioning golf course. And included in that is irrigation, septic, all the elements required to fully function a golf course. We had an understanding by the summer, so this is after the property was on the market, that there was a fault that needed to be addressed with the irrigation. But a golf course that's fully functioning requires irrigation, and that is the expectation of the buyer, which is understandable, I think.
So, the septic system, how often is a septic system on a big property like that inspected? Once a year? Twice a year? Why was there no clue? Not that there was no clue. Did you have an inkling that was going to be another system that was going to require, and why not?
Yeah, to your first question, I don't know the frequency of inspections for the septic system. But to the second question, no, that wasn't on our radar at all, that we would be confronted with a septic issue between now and the close.
So does the county have an opportunity to just back out of this sale? Because we're going to lose money on this.
Yeah, the purchase agreement has not been signed yet. We're currently working under a letter of intent. It's our position that proceeding with the sale is the best option, because the irrigation and septic will need to be addressed regardless of whether we have a buyer or not. If we don't have a buyer, the bond still exists, and it'll be paid down each and every month. There'd be no tax revenue from the property, and we would still be looking at a significant expense for both septic and irrigation if the golf course was to continue to operate.
Well, there's a couple of questions. So while that construction, renovation, improvement on those two systems goes on, will the golf course be operating to the public? I mean, when you do irrigation, I don't have enough of an understanding, I'm sure you don't. I don't know what parts are irrigated or how many miles of irrigation pipe there might be, but would that require a complete shutdown during that time or no?
Yeah, my understanding is that the time required to complete the irrigation fix is not great and can be done before the season starts. Now, I'm not a hydraulic engineer, so I'm probably over my skis here a little bit, but that's what I understand. And the septic system, although not compliant, is working, but needs to be addressed in order for it to be compliant. So to your question, I believe that the operation can kick off as scheduled this late spring.
Okay, and then, yes, the county, the taxpayers will have to invest in those two systems, which would then increase the value, the selling value, if we were to stop the process right now. I mean, this is actually something that is owned, more or less, by the county taxpayers. And so it's like, I have a car. It was a really cool car at one time, but now it's got some serious issues. Like, I get a buyer who say, oh yes, I'll buy it for X amount, but I need to check it over. The mechanic finds that it needs a new transmission and that you've got some serious problems with your combustion, with your inside the engine. So that's going to eat up more than a significant portion of what you would hope. Oh, you also have a loan out on your vehicle. So the point was to sell the vehicle, get rid of that loan, make your life easier. However, if you have to put in, as a car owner, the amount of money to fix those parts of your car, and once they're fixed, you've got a new car, essentially. So why would you sell it then? I mean, it just seems like we're giving more community property away. I mean, taxpayers are going to eat it again. So I just, it just seems like there's lies, there's damn lies, I'm not suggesting that, but statistics can be played with to present any scenario you would like, black or white, however it is. And I don't think this is a good deal for the taxpayers.
Administrator Trumbull?
Thank you, Madam Chair. In conversation with Peter, and Peter, please jump in here as well. My concern is that in discussion with him, what we talked about is if this sale doesn't go through, then a potential buyer will miss out on the revenue over the summer months, and so our actual purchase agreement might be less as we move forward than the offer that we currently have right now. So I think there's risk in not moving forward with this financially for the county, and I understand that we do have to fix the septic and the water is the irrigation as well, and that's a cost to the county, but I just want to make sure that the Board of Commissioners is aware that there could be a reduced amount of funds coming into the county if we do pause on this as well.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Peter. I appreciate the discussion. There's been many discussions over Superior National over the years, at the point that the golf course had hired a consultant to come in and make some recommendations that would encourage more participation so that we would increase revenues. The drafting of that document at that time, Scott Harrison and others who were asking for the support in that moved to go to tax abatement funds, which bypassed a public referendum on whether or not to do the improvements. Back in 2013, the discussion, 2014, the decision. And as happens very often within this county, and it's not unique to our county, there are things that individuals bring forward before the board and champion as being good ideas and assurances that it will not fall back on the taxpayer. And in the discussions when asking for support for the tax abatement, my position was to protect the taxpayer. And so there needed to be things in place that would protect the taxpayer, and I was told that there was no risk, and yet what I proposed in protecting the taxpayer, the response was, you want us to take all the risk. And my response was, you told us there is no risk. The reality is that with those fundings that were going to be paid off, similar to the business park, by the sale of properties, that the revenues would retire the debt. But we are paying that off because of the document that was drafted back in 2014 at $160,000 a year that are coming from our lodging tax. Had that not been in place, who knows where that money would have come from to retire that debt. Your statement that get Cook County out of the golf business is probably the strongest thing that I could support. And so respectfully, I don't want to rehash a lot, but I think these are learning experiences that are important to the people in this community. And so talking about it isn't intended to be a scolding, but is it intended to bring accountability to our actions. And when we don't reach our goals or intended purposes that we market and we communicate to the community, there doesn't seem to be accountability that accompanies that, and that's frustrating, and that's why the conversation needs to be had. I remember in my first term as commissioner that because of the winter, situation, that we would provide the funds, and then those funds would get dutifully paid back, and that's how it happened. I don't know what the last year was that the EDA had requested funds from the county to cover winter operations. I do know that if Redpath had informed the EDA that they could no longer establish a line of credit with the county, then we had to change our methodology, but the problem still existed through the winter season. So I don't know when that was, but we learn as we go, and we find out some methodology that we're using works, and then we find out it can't under best practices or state statute, whatever it might be. In the next step, well, it would seem to me, it would seem fair, reasonable to conclude that in putting together the 2026 budget that came before this body, that this we would have known and anticipated that these challenges would be before us. I would say that upon sale of real estate in the state of Minnesota, if there is a septic system that fails or issues that need to be brought up to compliance, that you cannot sell property without having that inspection and finding out. So you might not know until the inspection takes place unless you're having significant problems. So it's part and parcel of sale of property within the state that inspection takes place. And so I understand that, but the cash flow issue and the asking price and the offer with the three parties, that would have been something you'd be mindful of, so that coming into the 2026 budget request, there would be something built into that, at least I would assume, and there would be discussion so that we would be aware of that when we're setting our levy. If you look at this year, and part of the discussion I had relative to budget was that the $200,000 to come alongside business and help business in our community, that had largely been funded through COVID revitalization monies, And this year, it was entirely levy dependent. If you take that $200,000 coupled with the $200,000 that you're asking right now, that amounts to 3.125% levy. And I say when we're looking at alternatives, and this is a discussion in this process, that $200,000 that was built into your levy, if you haven't distributed anything at this point early in the 2026 season, I would say take that money and use that money. That money it's money that is just granted. There's no interest fee associated with it. And from my understanding, and I can stand corrected, that's the intent of that money, is to come alongside business within the community. And if this can facilitate a process without an additional burden, that would be a recommendation. The other thing is the revolving loan fund is a mechanism that can be used there. And talking with Brady, we do not have, this is something sort of new to us in this regard. And maybe somebody can find something similar, but it's new to us. So we don't have a policy that defines this. We can, in fact, charge interest, but we'd have to determine a policy and in order to be able to do that. We do have the revolving loan fund, which was established at the legislature, that does have an interest that is set based upon what the market is and 1%. I think that responsibility and accountability should be there. I think it sends a message to the taxpayers that we do expect accountability, and even though it's the relationship between the EDA and the county is it's an ingrown situation. It doesn't mean that accounting doesn't need to exist, and we have many examples within the county where we do have that accounting accountability. I certainly don't want to encumber the process, because it's back to your statement, we need to get out of the business of the golf course. I think an honest discussion is important. I think that there's been other opportunities for straightforward conversations, but they've been ignored. And so we find ourselves in this position. To Commissioner's White point and to the public comment point this morning, we don't want to dump this property. It does become an albatross that is a burden, and every year having to deal with that burden and the realities of that financially get frustrating. I remember when I was an executive director for an organization, and another organization was going to sell their property, and I went to the auction when they were going to unload everything, and what was difficult for me, and the lesson I learned from that, is that people that had contributed to that organization for years, people that probably had little money that contributed, that when they got so frustrated and wanted to be done with it, they just sold everything. They could have had an auction and generated several dollars in revenue, which was had by the buyer once the buyer bought it. And so the lesson to me is, don't get so weary that you walk away from that fiscal responsibility to a community that sunk its tax dollars into an enterprise. That's one point, and I'm not going to judge where we're at on that relative to the decision be made. I do believe that the buyer and the credibility that he's brought to that to Golden Eagle is substantive. And so when we're looking at our long-term best interest as a county, I do believe you want a credible buyer, and we don't want a lot of platitude and talking points. What we want is substantive that is demonstrated, so that the decision that gets made is reflective of the scrutiny that is needed in making a decision like this. I think that, again, and the balance in our revolving loan fund as of December 31st is $708,000. There's money in that fund. We have no commitments on that. The other question I would have is that in your presentation on your sale pro forma, I don't know what I'm missing here, but if you can inform me on this. We have the sale price of 1.85 million. We have inventories of 60,000, which gives us a net of, I mean, not a net, but the combined total of that is 1.910 million. Then you look at the bond retirement of 1.250, that leaves you with 600,000. Then you have agent fees at 200, that leaves you with 400,000. Then you have irrigation projected at 150%. Did you get a quote on that then, and then you just increase it 50% for the unknown?
Correct.
Okay, that leaves you with 170,000, and then you take the septic out at 270, that leaves you with 100,000, and then a minus 100,000. And then you have other selling expenses projected to be 50,000, that leaves you at $150,000 under, not 90,000. So unless there's something I'm missing there, when I tabulate those figures, it comes out to $150,000 negative figure. So I would just, raise that as a question. So I guess to summarize, anything we can do to come alongside and support the sale of this while being fiscally responsible, mindful of all the points that have been brought, forward this morning. This is a discussion we're having. We're beginning in a process that's going to require public input and everything else. It's an opportunity from today, given this discussion, to take a look at this and come back with substantive information that answers the questions that are being raised. As to the options on funding this, I would like to see either use the $200,000 that was included in the 26 budget, or seek funds from the revolving loan, which we do have that money. I don't know, Brady, the timeline on that, what your thought is?
Well, I would want the county attorney to weigh in on that.
Okay.
Those laws are not real clear, and that's why you need to look at it. This is unusual. The more direct loan would be to the buyer who's creating or retaining jobs, and this is just to enable a sale, which is a little different. Is it going to fit the statute? So we'd want to know that. But the other thing is, if the county were to make the loan, we don't have a policy on a situation like this. We have one for fire departments. We charge them 1% and so forth. I've put out proposed policies, but we've never approved one. And this is kind of unusual. So, I mean, the rate is whatever you set. It could be market rate. It could be mirroring the revolving loan, where it's, a slight decrease. It could be something else. So it's something you'd have to discuss on that. But I'd want Gene to weigh in on that revolving loans.
Yeah, thank you, Brady. As far as Minnesota legal requirements for interfund loans, county agencies such as an Economic Development Authority, the EDA, may be charged interest on monies it borrows from a county's reserve or general fund, provided specific conditions are met and the loan terms are properly documented in writing. So in my research on it, under the state of Minnesota, it's certainly allowable, and it's referencing directly the EDA in borrowing those funds. Because this is a beginning discussion, it is something that we explore, but we're trying to look at this from the standpoint of, when we look at our fund, again, back to the issue, anticipating this with a sale at where we were before the end of the year, that this, I would have liked to have seen this addressed in the budget as opposed to an add-on after the budget. The other component is the right for first refusal. That if there hasn't been any discussions or any indications that have been given in that regard, it's, as I understand it, what we are doing is we're looking for the bid and moving forward with the intention that it's going to take place. And at that point, then we put out to the Nelson family, and we have so many days in which to get a response from them.
That's right.
In some cases, it seems like it would be reasonable that once we know that we're thinking of selling it, that we would have said, we're thinking of putting this up for sale because of the agreement that we have upon getting the properties, that we just want to make does the family have any interest in retaining this? And the family might have said, well, I'd like to see what the offer is to know what it is we'd have to match, so that you do it more proactive as opposed to at the end and putting it out there, given all the energy that's put into it. Because they might have said, well, we're definitely interested. Let's see what the price would be. It's just talking out loud. So, I'd like to make sure, the other issue that I'm interrupting my comment there to say that when this was discussed before, the conflict of interest between the seller and the potential manager, a bit uncomfortable. It was something that had been discussed previously when it was brought before the board. If the agent that is representing the individual themselves is not benefiting, but it is the company that is managing it, which is also the company that is managing Golden Eagle, it doesn't look quite as bad. But it is an agency that is selling, and that conflict does exist, to Commissioner White's point, that we get as much money as we possibly can from this. If we look at the offers and we've done our due diligence in that, and we pursue, just as Commissioner White recommended, that if you don't feel that it's a fair price based upon its appraisal, you can start again with it. Time is ticking, monies, are adding up, but it is the stewardship of this process and not being weary in that process and just wanting to get rid of it so we can get rid of it. We want to try to recoup as much as we possibly can. Again, just a summary, the potential buyer has a reputation, has demonstrated that since they purchased Golden Eagle, so that is a plus. And when we have these conversations with the public and decision makers to better inform our decision, then it's a healthy process. So I appreciate the discussion. I would encourage we'd look at ways to try to lessen the burden to taxpayers. It is coming from a fund that is funded in large part by taxpayers. So if we can build accountability into this process, I'd like to see that. So thank you.
Thank you.
So he makes quite a few points. Is there any of those that you'd like to address?
A few. We did receive, as I mentioned, 3 offers, and the offer that we landed on was not only the highest, but was substantiated with a operator who had proven himself to be terrific in this space. Frankly, we would be prepared to not accept the highest offer, although we did, if the operator was clearly the best. So the good news is we didn't have to make that decision. We were able to go with the highest offer and what we think is the best operator. Regarding the car analogy, which I love, the reality is that this car needs to have a transmission and a carburetor and an engine, because that's how we marketed it. And through the due diligence period, we discovered that it didn't have all of those things. And so the buyer wrote the paper, made the offer with the expectation that this be a complete car. And so that's, if we're to proceed with this, that's what we would need to do.
Can I respond to that?
Yes, of course.
So if I have this vehicle I want to sell and I invest all that money to upgrade, we got a new transmission, we've got years of life before we have to invest that kind of money again. So you're not going to sell it. I mean, maybe you're not going to sell it, but if you sell it, you're going to tack on some extra dollars or add extra because of the value of a vehicle that now has a new transmission and a new engine. You've increased the life of that vehicle. Well, I mean, until you throw a rod or something. But, the chances are, as a buyer, if I was looking for a used car, I would certainly want to buy a car that had a new transmission or warranties or something. So that's as far as I'm taking this whole thing. But it just doesn't seem right. I mean, it just doesn't seem right that the taxpayers, was there anything in the wording of the intent to sell or intent to buy, whichever way, that if there were significant problems found, that there might be a need to renegotiate the selling price? And I'm not talking about recouping the entire, if it were $500,000 for those two systems, but something so the taxpayers don't have to, so they can walk away thinking, we had a really good thing for our community for a while. We got it started. County does not want to have to run, we don't have the expertise at all to run a golf course. But, and I believe it's the right thing to do. I mean, I thought that before it was even promoted, that it's too much of an investment in an undertaking for the county, for the EDA to have to deal with, because that's just not our forte, really. So, so I'm absolutely in favor of selling it. That will put it on the tax rolls. It will still be available for people to golf at, to entertain friends that come to town. So we don't lose anything that way, but we do lose out if we have to bear the entire cost of upgrading those two systems, which one way or the other have to be upgraded. I get that. So, and I just question why we have this and why we could not, and I don't know, so it's a question, I really don't know, to go back to the person and say, we've discovered that it might cost this much extra, and I know you added 50%, but when you go into the years, it could be more than that. It doesn't, I get that. But would they be willing to bear half the expense or pay for one or the other or something? And I think it wouldn't feel so bad. So that's it.
Thank you. A couple of points regarding the revolving loan fund, if I might. I firmly believe that the revolving loan fund, in conjunction with small grants, can play an important role, both of them, under the wing of the EDA. Currently, the two volunteers that sit in front of you don't really have the capacity for that yet. My promise to Scott Harrison has been, after the golf course is sold, that it makes a lot of sense for the revolving loan fund to come under the auspice of the EDA. So for the right applicant, some of them might go into a grant track, and some should, especially for large capital purchases, go into a revolving loan fund track. They're not, in my view, one or the other. They complement each other. We hadn't considered the possibility of using that same fund to offset this deficit, and that's something that we ought to study further with Brady, because that can make a lot of sense as well.
I'd just like to say that several years ago, sitting on the EDA, we had very similar conversations about the golf course. It is critical to get it on the tax rolls, and I appreciate the fact that you're thinking like I am, Commissioner, that the revolving loan fund is an option, but I think we need to look at that and see statutorily if everything lines up. If not, I would be very supportive of using that $200,000 from the Gunflint view, but I would like to explore the revolving loan fund first. But we have a buyer. Minnesota way overbuilt golf courses in the 80s and the 90s. We have a very highly qualified buyer, and I think it's important that we move quickly on this.
My question to you is just the time frame. So this is the first part of February, and it looks like several things will happen between February and March. What is your time frame, or are you beyond this, or are you pretty much needing to stick to the time frame you have here? We have public notice and meeting and a lot of things going on for a
Indeed.
month.
The one piece of, the longest piece of time here is also the most fungible, and that is the 90-day right of first refusal. The Nelson family may come back in a week and say, we're not interested, and all indications thus far have been that they're probably not. But they've got a right to their 90 days. And if all of that is absorbed, then that would take us to the end of May for a closing.
Commissioner Mills.
Yeah, if we use the revolving loan fund, wouldn't the taxpayers just be paying the interest?
It's an internal thing, so
So the EDA, the public EDA would be paying the interest, so the taxpayers would be paying the interest on the loan from themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
So that is accountable, but I don't know if it's the best use of dollars. When the EDA has an outstanding asset, the Gunflint View loan to be able to borrow against, I think that's a better use of funds. Still, there's accountability in that because there's an agreement there.
Commissioner Gamble.
Yeah, thank you. Well, your key word there is agreement. And this is why looking at all options from the standpoint of getting it done and accountability to taxpayers and putting some teeth into things so that, I mean, how many times have taxpayers come and ask for some relief and it hasn't been there? And yet how many times have we had business, tourism, and whatever come and ask and it's been there? And it's funded by taxpayers. So I'm just saying that's why I think it's important that there's accountability. And if, in fact, that the direction to go is to use the monies on the loan payback from the Gunflint View, that document needs to be very clear in its how it is written, so that in fact that's what happens. And that might seem very simplistic, but when we go back to the tax abatement, it took 3 times reviewing the legal document. The first time it came to me, I said, this doesn't say what we agreed to, and they said, well, it's implied. I said, it can't be implied. It has to be clear. If we both die, anybody can pick this up and understand it. So one of my points was that a legally binding document needs to be drafted regarding the pools leveraging the 100,000 receivable for Gunflint View. And like I say, it's a fundamental, you would assume, but that document needs to be scrutinized so the commissioners in approving anything like that are comfortable that we've covered our bases in that regard. And the other thing I would say is that what happens if the funds requested should estimates for irrigation septic come in under the projected 150%. If we put those monies out there and we find out it didn't cost us that much, where do those dollars go? And we say, well, it just goes to the EDA or it comes back into our reserve fund. That's another element that has to be clearly defined. Again, I appreciate the conversation. This is a beginning. And those are just things that we need to consider.
Administrator Treble.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Commissioners, for all of your comments. Just hearing the discussion, I wonder if we could move this to the next board meeting on the 24th and do a little more exploration around several things that we heard, which are the $200,000 that's already in the budget. Is that an option? Researching the revolving loan fund, potential negotiation with the buyer to cover the costs, and then what Commissioner Gamble just mentioned around the view and the loan payment, and possibly an MOU or some sort of document regarding how we're going to move forward. So those are kind of the key areas that I heard, and so I'm just wondering if I could work with the EDA and Brady as well over the next week and a half to explore those and bring more information back to the board on the 24th.
That'd be appreciated.
That would be great.
Terrific.
There was a question from Commissioner Gamble about a discrepancy on the money here, the sale per forma. Did you find that there was a discrepancy in the tabulation of that?
I saw Mark doing some
Yeah,
additions over here.
That's accurate. And the number that we needed, the minimum was about a 130. We're asking for 200 just for contingencies. And again, it was a best-case scenario projection of cash flow. I'm more comfortable with a higher number. So there is cushion. So we were asking for 200. The minimum, according to the numbers, was 127.5. So it allows for that $50,000 difference. So
I think there was a question too on the 90,000.
Yeah.
And that was accurate. It's the 60,000 inventories is revenue. They have to pay for those inventories, so
an
that's,
ad, right.
If I look at it just from a standpoint of,
yeah.
plus minus, that's,
That's right.
Yeah, it's just the 60,000 inventories.
I had to
Okay,
put
so then you get
60,000
90,
to there.
it's in there,
okay,
it's in there.
as revenue.
And I do end
Yeah,
up with
so
minus.
it's posting revenue, posting
Fine.
expense, and it comes out with 150. That's why I'm saying I don't understand how you got to arrive at the 90.
Yeah, I don't know what the 600 is here.
Those are the balance running after you subtract out the projected expenses in the pro forma. But that can be looked at. I'm
Right,
just,
I mean, it's
just look at it.
750.
I just found there was a
Right,
discrepancy.
I still think 200,000 is appropriate. ask.
Yeah.
I would
But-
agree, yeah.
Thank you.
I'll do a spreadsheet on it.
Any other comments or questions at this time? Commissioner White?
I don't think it was the $200,000, it was just the math,
Right.
adding and subtracting, and it's like, oh, we had two negative numbers. I mean, so I agree, I come up with minus 110,000. It
Yeah,
might
it
be
just-
wrong, too.
Yeah,
Minus
Madam Chair.
140,000. Well, whatever it is, it's not 90, and it's a math problem.
I had 170. Just kidding.
Well,
Sean's kidding.
I
Brady's
guess-
figuring it out.
Yeah, the point is that just take a look at that. The other thing I want to underscore is I appreciate the conversation, and it's a beginning. I appreciate the administrators and Brady will get us more information before we make a decision on this. And it is a journey. I always try to encourage people, don't be weary in well-doing, but it is easy to get weary when you've been with this so long, so, anyway.
Yeah, the math comes out as the minus 90.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, you can show me afterwards in a little tutorial.
We'll all have a math lesson.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you guys for your work on this, and yeah, not an ideal situation to learn about these bumps, but I really appreciate you diving in and taking it on. The community really owes you there, so thank you.
Well, if I told you it was a labor of love, I would be lying, but we're happy of the support of the
Exactly.
commission, so thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
And the
Appreciate
other
your
thing I
work.
think to note is Scott Harrison's work through all the years.
Indeed.
I mean, if we were to put that down, I know when he stepped into the EDA, he did a lot of things to bring credibility, at that point. So he's done an awful lot, and unfortunately, with the situation at Lutzen, he's lost a lot too in memory. So I think it would be amiss if we did not recognize his contribution to the county. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
So we'll look forward then, you working with Administrator Treble. Thank you for doing that too, and we'll hear from you the end of the month.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. So we're going to move on to item number 5, which is the CCLEP dissolution and dispersal of assets. Commissioner Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I gave the board an inkling that this would be coming a couple months ago, and in fact, on the evening of our town hall, CCLEP did vote to dissolve. And so I wanted today just to recognize CCLEP and the impact that they've had on Cook County. They were founded back in 2008, And the Cook County Local Energy Project began as a citizen-led, volunteer-driven organization responding to community concerns about climate change, rising energy costs, and the need for improved energy efficiency. And from its inception, CCLEP focused on education, local action, and practical solutions that helped our residences, businesses, and local governments better understand and adopt energy practices. And over its 18 years of operation, CCLEP played a really central role in advancing energy efficiency and clean energy awareness in Cook County. And its core contributions include the development and administration of energy audits for homeowners, helping residents identify opportunities to reduce their energy use, lower costs, and also improve building performance. And these efforts provided really practical household-level benefits while supporting broader community energy goals. They also provided a lot of homeowner and professional education. CCLEP supported youth engagement, civic action, and the organization also assisted a local group of youth advocates to help the city of Grand Marais establish their climate action plan and actually hire Shane Steele for the city of Grand Marais. So it really demonstrated their commitment to empowering our community members and fostering local leadership on sustainability issues. While CCLEP is concluding its operations as a nonprofit, its work will continue. They are going to turn over their assets to the Cook County Higher Education Group, and they will be continuing to provide different kinds of continuing education and action, ensuring that elements of CCLEP, both their mission and legacy, will continue to serve the community. And just so the public is aware, as of all of us, CCLEP's history and accomplishments will be celebrated on February 25th from 5 to 7 p.m. at Cook County Higher Ed. But we thank them for all that they've done for our community and wish Cook County Higher Education well in moving forward with some of the initiatives they'll take on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Then we will move on to other items on the agenda.
Okay.
Does that require a motion at all?
It does not
For
require a motion.
acceptance? Okay.
So we had a request from our consent agenda by Commissioner Gamble to pull the approved promotion of Neva Maxwell to Land Services Director. So Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, appreciate it. My question pertained to, with any time we have a transition, especially a leadership position within a department, is the difference between the pay grade and the rate per hour as it affects budget. So when we were doing our 2026 budget, we sort of anticipated, because there were rumblings coming from Tim, that he was anticipating his retirement. And so when your budget is presented, if it anticipated that, and I realize we don't know who the candidate might be, so we don't know where they will come in at, but based upon where Tim is at and where Neva would come in at, that's about $48,000 difference, reduced cost in that department because of Tim's longevity. So my question, basically from an understanding of when we do our budgets and we see transition, whether or not there was any mindfulness in how we projected those numbers relative to personnel, and if not, if that $48,000, what happens to that if that goes into the reserve fund for that department? That's my question. Tim's shaking his head, so he's...
Yes. Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. The answer is yes. And especially, we paid attention to that when further instruction or inquiry came out to the department heads to take a look for an additional 5%, or how can we, if we need to cut, where are we going to cut? And I spoke with Brady to make sure that, okay, yeah, because of the longevity and such, the new hire would have that lesser amount. And so said that's where we would plug in that lesser amount. We would account for that at that point. So, yeah, that was taken into consideration in the budget. I don't think it goes into, we don't have a reserve for the department
Right,
that we
and
can
some
pull from.
departments do and some don't, but.
Yeah, well, we do for equipment for the recycling center and such like that, but.
Okay, and so my question was, it was taken into consideration, but when you alluded to it in the 5% reduction ask. And so my question, because we really didn't follow through on those departmentally, and in your response to us in that regard, I appreciated, the scrutiny that you applied. You rolled up your sleeves and you did your homework and that, so I had no further recommendation relative to your department. My question is that you considered it, did it come out in the actual dollars that was represented and approved in the budget for 2026?
Commissioner Gamble, Madam Chair, I actually did not, Madam Chair, I did not alter the numbers at that point because we didn't know exactly where, who was going to be hired and at what rate that was going to be in. So it is a bit of a windfall for the county that was budgeted extra. It is going to be less for the course of this year.
Yeah, so the 2026 budget as approved did not reflect that.
That is correct.
All right,
It was
thank you.
considered, and we kind of identified that as an area in which we would see,
Yeah.
most likely, a windfall on that, but we
Yeah.
didn't alter that.
And the reason for the question is just from an understanding both for commissioners and for the community in the budget process, how much scrutiny we're applying to what we do know. And I can appreciate that we wouldn't necessarily know the person coming in as to the step in the hourly wage, but still it is a consideration when you're looking at dollars mattering in an insignificant, budget year. Every year is. So thank you. Appreciate the explanation. Go ahead.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Madam Chair, with that, I'd like to request the approval of the promotion of Neva Maxwell as Land Services Director with a pay grade of $240 and the rate of $53.27 per hour.
Support.
Any further questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I do have a statement. It's like, we really need to fix the video in this room so the public out there can see what a Neva Maxwell looks like. And that's all. I mean, over the years, they get glimpses of Tim Nelson, but it's another instance where the public would like to know or even when people speak. So I'm not going to I'll say it, but I'm not going to expect that you'll walk up here and turn and face the cameras. But anyway, that's my plug for getting better communications in this room.
We'll see what we can do with IT. Or rearrange the room. I don't know, we can't rearrange this, that's for sure. Okay, thanks so much for coming. All righty, we're going to move on to administrator updates.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. And we, like you said, we will see what we can do about the cameras. So I actually have a list of updates today, quite a few things that I've added because I assumed we would have some time since we had a shorter agenda today. So the first thing that I would like to talk about is the board work session that we had on January 30th. And all of the commissioners should have a one-page handout. We've also provided it, I believe, with the agenda, so if the community members are interested in seeing it as well. And Jana, if you wouldn't mind pulling it up on the screen for the community as well. I just wanted to provide an overview of what we discussed on the 30th and the work that occurred with the board work session. So you'll see on the screen, we have the meeting summary. It was an all-day event where the commissioners, myself, and Brady worked collectively on a variety of different things. We started off by talking about leadership, and you'll see on this page some of the things that came up from the commissioners and Brady and myself, that respect and valuing community members and people are essential, openness and integrity, service-oriented leadership, professionalism and perspective, and positive engagement. We talked about commissioners' roles and responsibilities, and some of the differences between administration and commissioners' roles. We provided some data from our MAT team and others about some of the priorities, how they view priorities for the county. And then in the afternoon, engaged in discussion around what are some of the things that the board wants to work on over the next year. And so, Jan, if you'll go to the second page, the areas that we discussed were SGSDs, a town hall policy, communication with the community and with county staff, and then budgeting. And so there are some next steps that we've identified and things that we'll continue to work on. And for SGSDs, I wanted to mention that that will be on the committee of the whole agenda next week. And staff will be bringing forward a proposal to talk about establishing a work group. And that came out of the town hall that we had a few weeks ago. And so just so that the community is aware that that's what we propose as the next steps, and the board had some discussion around that as well. And so we'll hopefully finalize that at the committee of the whole next week. And some of the next steps are things that I need to work on and bring forward at future meetings, and I'll be doing that and hope to have more information to the board soon. We also talked about having an additional work session to really dig into the budget, and so I wanted to propose a date for that today, which I'm looking at April 3rd.
I'm glad it's not the first.
Not April 1st?
Yes.
Nope, I'm hoping for another Friday. And that will give us a little bit of time to continue, like I said, to work on some of the takeaways from the work session, and then start planning for that. So just wanted to check in and see if.
That looks good.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Jana. You can take that down. All right. I also wanted to check in on another date, which is a really short turnaround of a potential meeting with BKV this Thursday. They are available from 11 to 3 to do a kickoff meeting with us regarding the next steps with updating the capital plan. So I wanted to check and see if there were a couple representatives from the board that might be available on Thursday. If they're not, we can certainly move that meeting to a future date, but it sounded like it was that date, or they would have to schedule it out several weeks.
I'm available and I would be interested in attending.
The timing, what was again? The
Thursday.
time?
11 to 3.
Okay.
I'm not available.
And I have another meeting with Senator
Okay.
Hochschild and Representative Scrabble.
Okay, perfect.
So Commissioner Sullivan and Commissioner White?
No, I'm not
Not
available.
available. So
Yeah.
Commissioner
We're
White is
not
available.
available.
Yeah.
Is anyone else available?
David?
No? Okay. Is there interest in moving that to a future date or keeping that
I
and
would
having?
appreciate, be part of the discussion, a future date, but
I could do that date if it was just a little bit later, like an hour later.
Starting at noon?
Yeah.
Jana, can you help me remember if that was a possibility? I believe it was.
Yeah, the ITV route is available.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right.
I think it would just be checking with BK.
Yeah.
To make sure it works for them.
Okay.
I guess you could-
Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the flexibility.
Yeah.
12
Yeah, and thank you.
12 to 2 on the 12th is the aim.
12 to.
12 to
It would be
4.
12
to 4, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, okay, perfect. I also wanted to mention that I attended a training, and quite a few of our case managers within PHHS attended as well. It was the same training, but two different audiences. So we had a tribal training and certificate partnership training related to the Indian Child Welfare Act and MIFPA, the Minnesota, I'm going to forget what the acronym.
Indian family.
African American Disproportionality Act, thank you. And so we held a training here a couple weeks ago for our case managers to work with the Tribal Training and Certificate Partnership on really understanding and learning more about ICWA and MIFPA. They also held training specific for county administrators. So I attended that on Monday and the prior Monday as well. It was a 2-day training. So I wanted to let all of you know that that has happened, because I know that's something that we've been talking about at the PHHS board. We have a second training that's happening here as well on the 17th and 18th for the staff that were not able to make the first training. So we're trying to get all of our case managers through that training program. I also wanted to make sure the board is aware that we have our first Grand Portage leadership meeting next week. And so I will be working with Anna Deschamps hopefully this week on finalizing an agenda for that, and we'll be moving forward. So we're excited. That will be our first leadership meeting that we've had with them recently.
And that's on Wednesday, the 18th.
Correct. All right. The last thing I wanted to mention, or last update I wanted to mention, is that we had a labor management committee training last week through the Bureau of Mediation Services. We had two of our commissioners, Commissioner White and Commissioner Mills, attend as well. And the focus was on a couple different areas: active listening, building consensus, perceptions, conflict management, problem solving, effective facilitation, and governance documents. It was a great training opportunity for the group, and I look forward to continuing to work with the Labor Management Committee. So wanted to make sure you were all aware that that happened. And then the last thing that I have is a change I would like to make to our agenda process, which is to change the way that we add our new hires and staffing changes and transitions to the consent agenda. What I would like to do is to provide a once-a-month report that provides a summary of all of the changes that have happened within HR. So all of our new hires, if there are any terminations or resignations, and provided in a one-page summary to provide to the board. I have consulted other county administrators to look at how do they manage this process and what does it look like, and there's a lot of different processes that are used by county administrators. Ultimately, it is a role and responsibility for the county administrator to be responsible for all personnel. Outside of myself, it is the board's role and responsibility to hire and supervise me. And so I'm hoping to make that change starting next month. Like I mentioned, I talked to a lot of county administrators. There isn't one way of doing this, but I think that it would streamline some things to put it together in one document and provide to the board. What I'm also considering is doing it the opposite month of the opposite time of month of the recognition of staff. So one board meeting, we're talking about and recognizing staff's anniversaries, and then at the other meeting, looking at the changes within our personnel for the county.
Commissioner Gamble?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The one page, I think, is good. I think it's some things that I feel a little uncomfortable given the significant changes, and when it's on a consent agenda, it sends a different message. And so I think the one page, the other thing, like the discussion this morning, they think is beneficial is knowing how it affects budget. If that can be put in there to the extent that we're comfortable with that. But a lot of times when it comes to changes in personnel and significant positions, it's an issue why I tend to pull it, because I want the public to know how that's going to affect our budget up or down relative to some of those changes. But
Okay.
it's just a thought.
Yeah, let me think about that.
Give that some thought.
And I think that's important. I just don't know that it needs to be a play-by-play. You know, when we talk about budgeting, right? It'd be good to focus on that rather than just here and that does that to the budget, like bring it all together. And so I think that can be a lot more cohesive and comprehensive.
Well, it
It's
depends on-
important that they're aware of it, but.
Yeah. It just, it's like the cumulative nature of acquiring knowledge as we go through the year that informs our budget process. Because if we get to the budget process, we got a lot of things being thrown at us. I'm open to the discussion, but as a commissioner, I would like to know when there's a change, how it affects budget. That's just because it's a numbers thing that lets me know. But
There's a lot of things that affect the budget, and I don't know that we're briefed on them every time. And so that's why I'm like, if we can do it all together, I think it would be more of a cohesive discussion and streamlining to your point, but I don't want to not know things either, so I hear what you're saying, it's just I'm
yeah,
trying
it
to
just,
figure
when
out.
you're providing information, it's like, we had a presentation this morning, and there were details that weren't in that presentation that informs us. Our responsibility is due diligence and whatever, but I'm just putting it out, and there certainly can be a discussion.
Yeah. And
I don't want to labor you with, additional work. I think this move to the one page and giving it more significance so that we are aware, but that is a component part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that I can have some conversations with Brady about, is there a report that we could provide quarterly or something that provides where we're at with personnel in comparison to where we were
Yeah.
when we budgeted? So I think there's, let me explore this a little bit
Yeah,
and see
and
what
what'll
options
happen
might
is
be.
that we'll have a discussion, whether it's, the sheriff's department or whether it's in public health, human services, and we can look at the chart, and when we get a hire, we don't know how that's affecting, the monetary side of things, and I think that's what we're
Yeah.
primarily responsible for, is following the dollars, so, however.
So one thing I want to add about in addition to what I've shared about my why in terms of making this change is, I think when staff are hired, when they're offered a position, we have to wait until after it's on the consent agenda for approval to move forward with them, with their starting date, because we've historically always had the Board of Commissioners approve their hire. That ties our hand in our ability of when we can bring staff on board, and it's ultimately not the role of the board to approve those positions. So we want to make sure that the board has access to the information, but ultimately, the hiring of staff is an administrative responsibility of myself and of the directors. And so we want to make sure that we're not tying our hands in terms of when staff can start positions. It also sends a misconception to staff about when we offer them a job that it's not final until when it's approved by the board. And so there's sometimes some fear around that, and it's misplaced because it's ultimately my role and responsibility. So we want to make sure that we're clear with staff when we provide them an offer for employment on what that process is going to look like. And truly, that's the biggest why behind this, is to make sure that we can streamline that process for hiring and onboarding, make sure that we get the information to all of you, but it's done according to the roles and responsibilities as well.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for that, perspective. What I would say in our role, I understand the hiring. There are two components as a steward of, entrusted in this position, is that we're hiring good people.
Mm-hmm.
And when we set our processes and whatever, then ensure that happens. When we don't, it is not saying we're going to get it right every time, but if we have processes in place. So the two things I want to know is, are we hiring good people? Does the process have integrity? And the other is the financial component. Those two things.
Good.
I realize the decision isn't ours to make, but it is to see how leadership manages it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I have a question. What is the assessment or evaluation of a new hire? Is it in 3 months or
6 months.
6 months? Okay.
They're on probation for the first 6
Okay.
months of employment. That can be extended as well, if necessary.
Sure.
And that's always done in consultation with Human Resources, but it's typically 6 months.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I think that's it. Let me just double check my list. I believe that's it, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for that update. Then we'll move on to commissioner reports, meeting updates with anyone? Commissioner Sullivan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Had an opportunity to go to Cook County Higher Education and participate in a presentation put on by Jeff Brand about the HRA and a housing update for Cook County, and that was really valuable. And I had an opportunity to share the slides with our county administrator, and just really appreciate the work that Jeff Brand is doing to update our community. Had an opportunity to attend a Firewise meeting, and we welcomed Lori Hansen, who lives on Onagon Lake. She's an EMT from the Gunflint Trail Volunteer Fire Department, and she will be serving in John Botker's capacity since he has moved out of the county. So we're happy to have a member of the Gunflint Trail Volunteer Fire Department continuing in that role. We recently had an SWCD meeting, and one of the things that was really gave me a smile was that we got an additional $30,000 because Lake County did not use, again, all of the funding that they had available. So we will be benefiting from that as part of the Lake Superior North One Watershed One plan. And they also announced the date. Amanda Weberg, June 20th, will be their annual Voyager Brewing event, and they will be serving Mystery Snail Ale this year. So be watching for posters and more information on that. And then lastly, I mentioned that I would be having an opportunity this Thursday to listen to Representative Scraba and Senator Hochschild. They will be meeting with the Cook County Coalition of Lake Associations, providing responses to some questions they shared regarding copper sulfide mining. So that will be an hour and a half, and I will be able to get to that noon meeting as a result. But thank you very much for the opportunity to update you all. Commissioner Gamble, do you have something?
Yes, thank you. Yesterday, the University of Minnesota Extension Committee met, and we had a full house. And Commissioner Storley is also on that committee. It's required that we have two. And we talked about local food sourcing and the importance of trying to encourage that, and the resource that the University of Minnesota Extension provides in that regard. We had a good discussion about the benefits we've seen, the increased the farmers market, and also the educational component that is involved in local food sourcing and the health benefits, and a program that is considered a food RX, which speaks to the issue of how local grown food and fruits and vegetables benefit a person's health. And so there's an allocation based upon need of local food that can be put together, and working with the clinic and other collaborative agencies to make sure that people recognize the importance of healthy, local grown food. There was a presentation also from a gentleman, and Commissioner Starley, if you want to take that.
Oh, the climate change?
Yeah.
Seth Spencer from ARDC, supportive of monies that's come in for meetings on climate change. He's hoping to have a date set for the Cook County to kind of have an open house and know what's going on with that. I do attend when I can, but he had a great PowerPoint, and so I asked him to send it to me because I'll be going to the townships. Because he mentioned about, including them in the information that we all need to realize that climate is changing, and how can we work together here in the north part of Lake Superior. So I'll be doing that over the next week, presenting that at townships.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Oh, yeah, pretty busy week. We had first round interviews for the EDA director. We moved 2 candidates on to second round. That'll be on the 17th. Northwoods Food Project met, Cook County Food Access Council met. And there's a lot of, I'd say, synergy and potential synergy going on, much to the extension report too, around food and food access. So, and just to, make sure everyone's aware and clear, the Northwoods Food Project is more aimed at supporting and sustaining and developing local farmers and local food sources versus the Cook County Food Access Council is mainly getting the food to the people that need it. So, but a lot of overlap there, I think, or just a lot of potential overlap. I'm really hoping that there can be more, but just a lot going on there. So that's pretty great. And yesterday was the Community Health Board. It was a pretty fast meeting, elected same slate of officers as last year. The doctor's presentation was on vaccines and the state of where we are as a state with vaccines, where we are as a region, as a country, and there's a lot of talk about measles in particular, and it's coming home. There were a couple people in the meeting who had family that were in quarantine because of exposure to measles, and so it's just doctor was pretty. He wasn't very pleased with the state of affairs, and so it was. He's a real friendly guy, but it's probably the least friendly I've seen him. Just talking about that. So had some harsh is too strong a word, but yeah,
Stern.
he had some. Thank you. That's exactly the right word. Some stern messaging there, just about. What models we're following or not, and the data versus not supporting the data, and so it was good to learn about that. So on the flip side of that, because of the attention and the exposure, people are seeing it, people are feeling it, and now there's a surge in measles vaccines. So it kind of swings back and forth, but yeah. That's probably all I have to share today.
Commissioner White, anything interesting?
Oh. Yes. The Prevention Coalition, it's a group that is trying to get the word out about prevention of drug and alcohol usage by younger community members. Working with the school, it seems to be going really well, getting school students, older students to take a lead on promoting. Sounds a lot like DARE, kind of, but it's a little bit more than that, giving them the skills to be able to talk intelligently with their peers and with younger kids about the dangers of consuming those substances. And then the other part of it is, and the big question is, we have many people in this community who have gone through treatment, and they have succeeded. I mean, residential treatment, and they are clean and sober for X number of days or weeks or months or years. But the question is, is there anything here to support their efforts to stay clean and sober? Is there any way, what is needed? And this is, as I said to the group, I don't have a lot of experience in this field at all, but there are people that have had suicides and alcoholism and efforts by their loved ones to kick the habit, and then just couldn't. And so that's what this is going for. And then there was the Active Living Steering Committee. We did not have a meeting, so I got to attend that. This group that has been working on the Superior Hiking Trail forever, they just keep plugging along, and it's the Gitchigami Trail. Financial problems exist on all facets for everybody, from the DNR to MnDOT to the nonprofits. But they're not giving up. It's pretty impressive. But when I heard them talk about it, I thought this is going to be decades before they get it done. But they're not daunted by that. And then there was a Lake Superior North 1 Watershed 1 plan meeting, and it is interesting that the Cook and Lake County, it's how they share the money. Like, there's all grant-funded money, and if they don't get a chance to use it, they put it out there and say, we've got 30,000, we can't use this, or whatever, so here you go. That's pretty interesting. And then there was the Council on Aging, determined group of people to keep that place open. Revenue is a problem. They're getting more revenue, but the costs are still there, and they're going after grant funding for updating the kitchen the place, it's time to get all this done. So they're working on that, and they need board members. If you become a board member, you will have the opportunity to work and when you discuss and all of your ideas to be very seriously considered. And it's a good group of people. Also, I will throw in a plug for the Lions. The Lions need more members. This is just an aside. And then the discussion went to the decrease in volunteerism among younger community people everywhere. So if you're not a Lion, maybe you should be, if you have extra time to work, so.
Is there still a group called the Lioness?
They didn't say. It
Oh,
was just an
okay.
off
Okay.
side conversation that we had. And I don't know, because now if I'm remembering correctly, Kathy Everett is a Lion still, and she was years ago, but maybe she was a Lioness. I don't recall.
I know there's the two groups, so.
Yeah.
Have been.
I thought they combined, but I could be wrong.
I don't.
Yeah.
I was thinking, if I could say,
What were you?
didn't the Grand Marais Lionesses sometime in the past become WISE, W-I-S-E? Yeah.
This information is coming from our administrative assistant,
I did not introduce
Jana.
myself yet, but I believe that's what the Lionesses turned into, was WISE.
Became wise,
That-
Which I can't remember what that stands for.
Women.
women, something. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Commissioner White, you reminded me, if you're done, are you done?
I'm done.
Oh, okay. You reminded me of the Parks and Trails Commission meeting, and it's on me to bring this to the board, and clearly we're not going to vote on it today, but it's something that we need to discuss further, and it's about the CJ Ramstead Trail, allowing ATV use. And just to go back a little bit, this board had voted to include it in the CJ Ramstead Master Plan, include ATV use, not UTVs, just ATVs, in the CJ Ramstead Master Plan, if there was letter supports from the Superior Hiking Trail Association, the Saddle Club, as well as the Superior Cycling Association. We did not get all three of those, and so we were not put into the master plan. I made the motion or amended it or something. It was, I guess, poorly worded or executed, or it didn't make a whole lot of sense. And so there is now a request to be put in that. I expressed what I thought was happening as we were waiting for $20,000 from the state to study it, or that section at least, before we wanted to be in the master plan, considering all that's going on in the state. That was probably over a year ago now. That's not coming. It, I guess, doesn't exist any longer. So in order for us to look at it, we need to be part of the master plan. There were, I would say, public comments in respect to the north side of Pike Lake. There was concerns about noise and traffic there. And there have been just kind of some, napkin drawings and looking at maps about potential workarounds there, and there is potential. But as of now, the C.J. Ramstead board does not have Cook County included in the master plan. And so I told the president of the Cook County ATV Club that I would bring it to the board to talk about this more and what our next steps should be. I understand the hesitancy to want to be included in the master plan without knowing, but being a part of that master plan allows for that exploration. And I guess, we can reach out to the state to see if, once we're in that master plan, that's that, or if we're gonna have some kind of say as far as what they discover and what our roles are through the process. So just wanted to put this on our radars, and ask how the board thought or wanted to proceed.
Commissioner Gamble?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, when you said board, you're referring to this board and not the Parks and Trails.
Correct. The Parks and Trails has already given full support to
Okay.
that request.
Yeah, well, I would say that, the opportunities that we have for discussion on this either come at the committee of the whole, if it's something that has some in-depth, otherwise there'd have to be information that would be informative that come before us before we would make a decision. So as far as moving forward, I guess we'd need more information, and if it rises to that level, that it should be on the cow agenda, then that's what I would do. But if not, then something that's a presentation comes before the board. It's always good to have context and understanding the ripple effect of any decision, however.
Yeah.
The other thing I would mention, Madam Chair, is that at the Extension Committee, the backpack program, which has been a good program, the funding for that and continuation through the extension, it has been agreed that it would be taken over by North Shore Foundation, and they felt that it would be a good fit and they would have the monies to do that. That's newly informed not-for-profit, and so that program will continue, but under the auspices of North Shore Foundation.
Yes?
So maybe we should ask the state, sorry to keep bouncing, about giving a presentation on the committee of the whole, if you all would be agreeable to that,
Yeah.
just to get more information.
And has there been any follow-up, Commissioner Mills, on why we have not received letters?
I think
Support.
I think the holdup was Spear Hiking Trail, and I haven't heard directly. My impression is that there was concern of the politics and just they didn't see how it applied to them, and so I think they're concerned about getting backed into a corner or something. That's kind of my between the lines.
It's always good, I mean, for those that are in the know, we'll call it, if we can see the pluses and minuses.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
if we can put something together that way and address that, then it'll address the things that we need to weigh in any decision, so, yeah. Pros, cons.
And that's all. Thank you.
Well, let's see, my updating is we had a 3-hour NACO meeting, finalizing all of our policies and everything, so I'll give you an update on that probably on Tuesday or for sure the end of the month. Attended the extension meeting yesterday. I was pleased to see we have new members. So, it's always been kind of beating the bushes to figure out, come on board and help with the extensive programming that has been presented to us. So that part was good. I'll be attending township meetings over the next week and a half, and that's about all I have right now. So we can move on to updating our meetings for the coming week. The courthouse will be closed on Monday, President's Day, the 16th. And that's all I have just for updating on that, recognition of staff. So the February staff anniversaries are as follows. We have Paul, or better known as Willie, Olin, Highway Department, 1 year. M. Westerland, Attorney's Office, 1 year. Julie Berglund, Office Support Specialist, 2 years. Rico Rivas, Public Health and Human Services, 2 years. Jay DeCoute, Radio Communication Analyst, 4 years. Karen Christensen, Veteran Service Officer, 4 years. Nick Honer, Auditor's Office, 4 years. Kathy Ann Robinson, Attorney's Office, 7 years. And Tim Nelson, Land Services, 27 years. There being no other further business, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Question.
Will you send me an email with
I
the
don't
contact
know
of the state?
that we have a real
We want-
definitive
I hope
per
so.
diem.
Wow, we're done way earlier than I thought I would
The
be.
question is,